They uncovered the shocking journey of Apostle Peter from humble fisherman to fearless martyr. Few knew what truly happened that night on the stormy Sea of Galilee. Picture it, the howling winds, waves crashing like thunder against the boat, a group of terrified men clinging to a flimsy vessel. In the chaos, amidst the screams and the desperation, there stood Peter. A fisherman by trade, but that night, he felt an electric pull deep within his soul. The moon illuminated his face as he gazed into the swirling darkness. Was that a figure walking on the water? His heart raced. This wasn't just any man, it was Jesus, defying nature itself. Could it be true? Or was it a figment of his imagination, a mirage conjured by fear? The storm raged on, but something else brewed within Peter, a flicker of faith against the tide of doubt. In that moment of revelation, everything changed. The ancient land of Jerusalem, the bustling markets, the stone roads filled with whispers of prophecies and miracles, suddenly felt so close. Jesus had called him to follow, to leave behind the nets and embrace a destiny cloaked in promise and peril. The weight of the Messiah's gaze lingered, thickening the air around them, but the doubts were there too. How could an uneducated fisherman, someone prone to blunders, become a confidant to this divine figure? And yet, there was that undeniable miracle. Peter stepped out of the boat. With each step, the chaos quieted, and the water beneath his feet felt solid, as if the very earth recognized his faith. But what happened next sent a shiver down his spine. Fear gripped him, and he began to sink. The weight of expectations, failures, and the gnawing fear of rejection pulled him down into the abyss. "Lord, save me," he cried. And in an instant, strong hands gripped his trembling body, pulling him from the depths. What about those who wouldn't be rescued? What about the disciples watching, slack-jawed in disbelief? Their minds raced. Could this be the moment that their lives would forever change? The tumultuous waves matched the storm in Peter's heart. Would he be the rock as Jesus promised? Or would he crumble like sand? His journey had only just begun, with every heartbeat echoing possibilities and doubts alike. As the storm cleared and calm settled on the sea, another question arose. Was this act of faith just the beginning of an incredible saga? What would happen when the crowds discovered who Peter truly was? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the dawn broke over the sea, painting the horizon with hues of gold and pink, Peter leaned against the side of the boat, his heart still racing from the night's ordeal. The water shimmered, a deceptive peace after the chaos, where moments ago the wind had howled like a ravenous beast. He stared out at the gentle waves, contemplating the weight of what had just happened. "Truly, he is the Son of God," one of the disciples whispered nearby, still in awe. Peter turned, meeting the eyes of his companions, their faces a mix of relief and wonder, forever transformed by the night's events. Had he, a simple fisherman, truly witnessed something divine? But skepticism hung in the air like the remnants of the storm. Doubts flickered like distant stars. Could he sustain this newfound faith? Was the call of Jesus to be more than a moment of courage? He listened as the whispers of the disciples swirled around him, each voice grappling with both excitement and uncertainty. As the boat approached the shore, the sun arched higher, and the noise of fishermen resumed, mingling with the sounds of life awakening in the nearby villages. Peter's mind drifted to the multitude that would soon gather to hear the teachings of Jesus. If he were to become a rock, would he support the weight of the world's hopes and fears? When they reached the shore, Peter stepped onto the familiar sand, grains that had once slipped through his fingers like dreams unmet. Now everything felt different. Nikos, a childhood friend, called out his name, shocked to see him alive. "What happened, Peter? We thought you'd faced the fury of the sea forever." A faint smile broke through Peter's concern. "I was." But how could he articulate what had transpired? The miraculous rescue, the way fear and faith danced in his heart. Would they believe him, or dismiss his words as tales conjured in the heat of dawn? "Come." Nikos interrupted his reverie. "There are stories brewing, rumors spreading about a teacher who heals the sick and feeds the hungry." The weight of expectation gnawed at Peter. He felt the urge to proclaim the truth, yet wondered if he was prepared. The days passed swiftly after that night, with throngs gathering around Jesus, each one seeking something: hope, healing, a sense of belonging. Peter watched, mesmerized and terrified. He followed closely, lingering at the edges, yearning to step forward yet shackled by self-doubt. What did it mean to step into a role as a leader, as a disciple? In the evenings, they gathered around a fire, listening to Jesus expound on love, grace, and the kingdom of God. Peter felt an urge to share his story, to reveal the miracle of the waters, yet the shadows of his failures loomed large. Each time he opened his mouth, fears clawed back at him, reminding him of the sinking he faced. "Do not be afraid," Jesus often said, his voice grounding and steady. Yet, how could Peter erase the turmoil within? How could he reconcile the powerful act of faith with the memory of fear? When the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the sky in deep oranges and purples, he found himself in quiet contemplation. There, in the solitude of twilight, he felt a nudging within, a whisper that called him to trust, to embrace the uncertainty of the path ahead. Was the miracle of the waters the clearest sign of his calling? Was it enough to ignite the faith in others, or would he always be burdened by his fears? As reflective questions washed over him like gentle waves, Peter stood, uncertain yet resolute. What awaited him beyond the horizon? Every heartbeat echoed with an unanswered collaboration of faith and doubt. How long would he wrestle with these contrasting forces before embracing the mantle of destiny that awaited him? His heart yearned for clarity, but the mystery lingered. What lies between fear and faith? What deeper revelations awaited him on this journey? As the days unfolded into a tapestry of teachings and miracles, Peter found himself at a crossroads, suspended between his humble beginnings and the weight of the divine call that beckoned him. Each morning greeted him with new faces, all searching eagerly for the truth that flowed from Jesus like a river of life. Yet, the swell of excitement in the crowds only intensified Peter's inner turmoil. One afternoon, as they sat upon a grassy hillside overlooking the Sea of Galilee, Jesus spoke of the Beatitudes, the blessedness of the poor in spirit, the meek, and those who thirst for righteousness. Each proclamation felt like a gilded thread woven into the fabric of Peter's restless heart. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," echoed in his ears long after the crowds had departed. He couldn't help but ponder, was he truly poor in spirit? Did he truly understand the depth of these words? That night, beneath the stars that twinkled like the promises of God, Peter wrestled with the unsettling questions that churned within him. He recalled the winds from the previous night, swirling mercilessly. Was not faith just as tempestuous? Did the stillness Peter felt after that moment of vulnerability finally herald a new beginning, or merely mask the storm brewing within? The following morning, Jesus gathered the disciples, his eyes fixed with an intensity that sent ripples of anticipation through Peter's heart. "Let us go to the other side," he commanded. There was something in his voice that sparked a mixture of hope and fear. Peter sensed that more than just a physical journey awaited them. As they journeyed into the unknown, the boat rocked gently, yet Peter could feel the undercurrents of change swirling around him. Would they confront more than just the physical trials of the sea? And what of the personal storms within? The shores of Gerasene soon rose before them, wild and untamed. They docked cautiously, and Peter's eyes widened at the sight of a man who came rushing toward them from the tombs. The man was wild, possessed by legions, a stark reflection of battles waged within the depths of each soul, including his own. Fear gripped Peter's heart as the man knelt before Jesus, crying out to him. "Why do you torment me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? The voice was chilling, echoing with a dissonance that felt strangely familiar. Peter's mind raced. Could this be a manifestation of the darkness that often threatened to drown him? With a firm authority, Jesus commanded the unclean spirits to leave the man, revealing the depth of his power over evil and despair. Peter watched in awe as the transformation unfolded. The man, once tormented, was now clothed and in his right mind, sitting at the feet of Jesus. It was a vivid display of redemption and hope, a glimpse into the glorious possibilities of faith. What did it take to experience such a radical change? The sky darkened as the townspeople approached, their eyes wide with fear at the sight of the restored man and the magnetic presence of Christ. Peter's heart raced, understanding that the power of Jesus was a force that both captivated and terrified. Would the people recognize the miracle before them, or would they turn away in fear, as he often did? As Jesus prepared to leave, the restored man pleaded to join them. Yet Jesus sent him away with a command: "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you." In that moment, a profound realization washed over Peter. The call to spread the message of Jesus wasn't reserved for the skilled or the certain, but was a mission entwined with every soul, seeking to share the transformation God had wrought within them. Peter felt a stirring in his heart, a deep longing to share his own story, the chaotic nights battling his fears, and witnessing the miraculous. But the shadows of doubt loomed heavy. Would anyone listen? Could he ever step forward in such profound faith? As they sailed back across the waters, Peter's thoughts were a whirlpool of wonder and fear, an internal struggle mirrored by the gentle lapping of waves against the boat. He gazed into the water, reflecting on the wonders he had seen and the depths still left unexplored in his heart. Could he embody that transformation? Could he share with others the truth that had begun to illuminate the darkness of his own fears? The mystery of faith hung palpably in the air. What awaited him on the shores of his future? Would he find the courage to embrace his calling, or would he remain bound, forever wrestling with the tides of uncertainty? As dawn broke over the horizon, casting hues of gold and crimson across the waters of Galilee, Peter's mind remained a tempest of thoughts and emotions. The events of yesterday had etched themselves indelibly into his spirit, and yet, he felt a hunger for deeper understanding, a longing to grasp the full weight of his experiences. After their voyage, the disciples gathered around Jesus, who led them to the mountainside once more, an echo of the previous day's teaching. The sun bathed them in warmth as Jesus sat and began to teach again. His words flowed like a brook, weaving through the hearts of the listeners gathered there, each one a vessel craving wisdom. "You are the light of the world," he proclaimed. "A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Peter pondered these words, feeling their urgency pulsing against the backdrop of his doubts. Was he capable of such illumination? The metamorphosis witnessed in the man they had encountered lingered in his thoughts, questions stagnating like pools of water in a sunlit valley. Where was the light in his own life amid the shadows that cast doubt on his worthiness? There, on that mountainside, something remarkable began to unfold. The hearts of the disciples soon reflected the struggle within Peter. Andrew spoke, seeking clarity. "Lord, what does it mean to truly be salt and light? How can we preserve the goodness you speak of when we ourselves feel so flawed?" Jesus turned his gaze upon Andrew, a knowing smile curling upon his lips. "It is not the perfection of the vessel that matters, but the grace within it. The salt that loses its flavor is cast out, yet even the smallest grain carries potential. Live adorned with love and kindness, for in those acts, the true essence of light will shine through the cracks of your humanity." As his words settled deep into Peter's heart, he could not dismiss the underlying challenge, to embody that grace amidst his shortcomings. The staggering insight was both liberating and daunting, opening a door to costly discipleship that lay before him. Could he become a beacon for others while grappling with his internal chaos? The teachings continued, but Peter's gaze drifted to the horizon, where the waves lapped gently at the shore. His thoughts turned inward, and he recalled the moments of doubt when he had faltered in faith, how often he had allowed fear to overshadow the undeniable call upon his life. What if the core of Jesus' message was not only meant for the crowd, but for him personally? That night, as they gathered once more by the fire, the warmth did little to assuage the chill of uncertainty that cloaked Peter's heart. He noticed the others sharing their own struggles, the spectrum of vulnerability laid bare before him, a communion of souls wrestling with their humanity. "Lord, I wish to share my heart," he blurted out, perhaps too eagerly, but the words held an urgency. Moments shared with Jesus always laid bare their inner turbulence. The replies were a mixture of solidarity, vulnerability, and strength, yet within Peter remained a dichotomy of hope and disquiet. "Could we be like the man from yesterday?" he proposed, his voice steady yet trembling. "Could we share our stories of your grace and transformation? But what if the world out there fears us, turns away in disbelief?" Jesus listened intently, the firelight illuminating his face. "Fear will always exist between light and shadows. But remember, my dear Peter, darkness cannot withstand a single flicker of light. Your story has the power to unveil the truths hidden in others' hearts. Fear not what lies ahead." These words sunk deep, igniting a flicker of hope within Peter's soul. Yet, still, the question lingered, gnawing gently at his thoughts. Was he ready to step beyond the threshold of self-doubt, to embrace his potential as a messenger? As the embers of the fire shifted and danced, Peter wrestled with the mystery of faith, the path uncharted and laden with uncertainty. With each breath, he contemplated the very essence of becoming a vessel of light in a world often cloaked in shadow. How could such transformation come from surrendering his own doubts? As sleep gently beckoned him, Peter pondered, would he find the courage within to embrace not only his story but also the stories of others in a world eager for redemption? Would he become the light, or would he remain ensnared in the grasp of self-doubt? The following morning, an atmosphere of anticipation clung to the crisp air as the sun rose with a fervent embrace, dispelling the remnants of night's darkness. The disciples awoke, their hearts still kindled by Jesus' teachings, yet each with their own silent battles brewing within. As they gathered for their meal, the weight of yesterday's experiences lingered like a heavy fog. Once again, Jesus led them to the shores of Galilee, where the waves whispered secrets to the wind. "Gather close," he beckoned, his voice calm yet infused with profound resolve. "Today, I wish to share a parable." The disciples took their places around him, curiosity sharpening their focus. "Consider the story of a sower," he began, gesturing to the fields that stretched beyond the water's edge. "A man went out to sow his seeds. Some fell upon the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Others fell upon rocky ground, where they sprang up quickly but withered in the sun, having no root. And some fell among thorns, which grew up and choked them. But some fell on good soil and yielded grain 100-fold. Jesus paused, allowing his words to take root in the hearts of his listeners. Peter sat in silence, conscious of the path he had trodden, and the doubts that often plagued him like the choking thorns. He wrestled with the realization that his own heart felt prone to the weeds of fear and insecurity. "Which soil am I?" he whispered under his breath, anxiety tightening around him as he considered the implications. "In every soil, my dear ones, there lies potential," Jesus continued, penetrating Peter's internal struggle with compassion. "It is the quality of the heart that transforms the seed, not merely the seed itself. Take heart in knowing that through care and the right conditions, any heart can be nurtured into good soil." Peter's spirit stirred, a mixture of hope and trepidation coursing through him. He thought of his past, of the times he had felt trapped in his limitations, and yet could it be that he held the capacity for transformation? The thought, though comforting, ignited a greater question: would he choose to nurture the soil of his heart under the light of faith? As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the gathered assembly, Jesus shifted the narrative. "You may be the seed sown into the lives of others," he said, gazing meaningfully at each disciple. "The world is ever in need of those willing to plant seeds of light and love, even amidst the uncertainty." Emboldened by Jesus' gaze, Andrew spoke again, "But Lord, what if our seedlings never germinate? How do we know that our efforts will bear fruit?" His worry echoed in the hearts of many, and Peter yearned for an answer that would lay bare the path before them. Jesus smiled softly, for he understood their fears. "Fruitfulness will not come from your strength alone. It is the nurturing of the Spirit through love, patience, and faith that bears witness. Trust in this journey, the sowing is as essential as the harvesting. What matters is the willingness to labor. As the crew of disciples absorbed this wisdom, Peter felt a solidifying resolve form within. Each moment spent in Jesus' presence added layers to his understanding, a tapestry woven with threads of faith, doubt, and possibility. He remembered the fisherman he had once been, content with the simple tasks of life. What if he could now become a fisherman of souls, casting nets beyond the waters of Galilee into the unseen depths of the heart? The day unfolded with teaching, laughter, and sacred fellowship. Peter felt kinship with his companions, all grappling with their own vulnerabilities yet standing together in their collective yearning for clarity. Later, as they retreated to a quiet place, Peter found a moment to steal away from the group, needing solitude to process the swirling emotions within him. Near the shoreline, he knelt in the sand, drawing patterns with his fingers while the waves lapped at his feet. In those tranquil moments, a gnawing truth surfaced, a question that ignited his spirit anew. What if his identity as a disciple was not defined by his shortcomings, but by the willingness to allow Jesus to cultivate the soil of his heart? The echo of Jesus' parable lingered in his mind, the challenge settling deeper. Would he dare to embrace the duality of his existence, the seed capable of growth yet often suffocated by thorns? As day faded into twilight, Peter's heart brimmed with reflection. Could he find the courage to nurture the seeds of light within himself and invite others to do the same? Would he step beyond the confines of fear, inching ever closer to the promise of transformation as he learned to trust the process of faith? As twilight surrendered to night, the water's surface mirrored the stars that began to dot the sky like scattered jewels. Peter, lost in thought on the shores of Galilee, marveled at the vastness of the heavens, contemplating the depth of his own soul. In those moments of silence, it became apparent that his journey was not solely about overcoming his fears, it was a pilgrimage toward understanding the true essence of discipleship. The warmth of a distant fire lit the faces of his fellow disciples, drawing him back to their gathering. As he walked towards them, the sounds of laughter and shared stories beckoned, a gentle reminder of the community that held him steadfast. Each man brought forth his reflections, and in their fellowship, Peter found solace. They were together, grappling with the same uncertainties and yet buoyed by the hope they derived from Jesus' teachings. Do you think we will ever truly understand him? Nathanael asked, casting a glance at the rising moon. The mysteries of his parables seem deeper than we can grasp. James, ever thoughtful, responded, perhaps understanding is not the end point. Maybe it is in the seeking, and in the striving to grow that we find our truth. Like the seeds, we too must trust in the seasons of our learning. Peter felt a shift within him as he listened, struck by the pulse of communal reflection. The spirit of their bond wound tighter around him, encouraging him to embrace the very vulnerability he feared. What difference could he make in the lives of those around him? How could he share the light that began to flicker within? Jesus approached the group, his presence casting warmth over them all. My dear friends, your hearts are alive with questions. Remember that even as you wrestle with understanding, you are not alone. Every question brings you closer to my love, every doubt can lead you to greater faith. Peter's heart quickened. Lord, we fear the weight of our mission. The world seems vast, and we are but simple men. How can we bear the fruit of your labor? Jesus regarded him lovingly. You are not defined by your past but by your willingness to serve. Each step you take in faith counts. Even the smallest act of love ripples through eternity. When you cast your nets deep into the waters of the world, trust that I am with you. You only need to begin. The presence of his words held healing power, swiftly unraveling Peter's feelings of inadequacy. Stepping forward, he expressed, but what if we face rejection? What if the seeds we sow are met only with indifference? There was a quiet pause as Jesus surveyed the gathered men, their faces illuminated by the flickering light. Rejection is part of the journey, Peter. Even the stones can become stepping stones when turned toward the light. Remember, it is not the esteem of men that you seek, but the grace of my presence. As night deepened, Jesus shared the tales of laborers in the vineyard and the lost sheep, illuminating the boundless love of a God who never forsakes his creation. Each parable threaded the fabric of hope into their hearts as they listened, captivated and inspired. In those sacred moments, Peter understood that each fear he faced was merely an invitation to discover courage, an invitation to cultivate a heart willing to bear witness to the miracles of faith. He pondered the journey that lay ahead. Could he really transform his identity from fisherman to a bearer of the good news? And yet, as his hopes began to flourish, a gnawing thought whispered through him: was he truly ready to embrace the martyr's path? Would he carry his cross when the time came, knowing that love often calls for the deepest sacrifices? As the stars danced overhead, Peter felt both anticipation and trepidation, wondering what the dawn would bring. Would he rise to the challenge, ready to transform into the fearless apostle that awaited within him? The dawn broke over Galilee, casting soft rays that wove through the ancient trees, gently waking the world from its slumber. Peter stood again by the water's edge, gazing into the murky depths, his heart heavy with the weight of the revelations that had come in the night. Each wave crashing upon the shore seemed to echo the depth of his calling, the rhythmic sound resembling a heartbeat, a reminder that he was truly alive, yet so unsure. As he looked out over the tranquil waters, a single thought consumed him: was it truly possible for someone like him to become the vessel of a message so profound? The sun hung low, a bright orb set against the backdrop of a vast sky, welcoming the day anew. Unraveled by his own doubts, Peter tossed stones into the lake, each splash representing the fears he wished to drown: the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the ever-looming fear of the unknown. Just as the last ripple faded into calm, he felt a touch upon his shoulder. It was John, who had approached quietly, his face awash with the light of dawn. "Peter," he said, "the Master wishes to speak with us, all of us." A tinge of nervousness swelled in Peter's chest, intermingling with a flicker of excitement. They followed John back to the gathering, where Jesus awaited, surrounded by the morning's gentle light. The atmosphere felt different, charged with an urgency seldom present before. "Dear friends," Jesus began, his voice steady and soothing, "the time has come for you to be sent out, to take the love you have received and share it. In this world, many will hunger for hope, and you are called to be their bread." As he spoke, Peter felt a shiver of resolve run through him. Yet, beneath the surface surged a whirlpool of questions. How could he, a humble fisherman, be the bread of life? What if he faltered? The fear of inadequacy loomed, unfurling its wings like a storm cloud ready to sweep the peace away. "And remember," Jesus continued, "you will not go alone. I will send the Comforter to guide you, to strengthen your will. Trust in that promise, and let your hearts be unburdened." Each word carried weight, sinking deep into Peter's spirit, yet a sense of doubt still flickered behind his faith. "Lord," he ventured, voice barely above a whisper, "how do we know we will be worthy of this charge? How can we stand before the people, hearts filled with truth?" With a knowing look, Jesus stepped nearer. "Worthy is not about your past nor your skills, Peter. Your worthiness is rooted in your willingness to be used. Seek to serve, and in that posture, you will uncover who you are meant to be." Peter's heart swelled at these words, yet he grappled with the implications. Could he truly lay down his fears and trust enough to step into the unknown? Around him, he could see the resolve in the eyes of his companions, the spark of potential igniting within them as they too contemplated the enormity of their mission. But deep within, an unsettling thought loomed: if he were to be known not just as a disciple but as a leader, as a rock upon which the faith would be built, how heavy would that cross weigh upon his shoulders? How could he unite the community, standing firm amidst ridicule, chronic doubt, and the ultimate challenge to his faith? As Jesus finished speaking and laid hands on each disciple, blessing them, Peter felt the gentle surge of hope mingled with fear, intertwining in a chaotic dance. He wanted to believe, to step bravely into the light of divine assurance. And yet, what would it cost him? As Jesus turned to prepare them for the journey ahead, a thought echoed in Peter's heart: was he truly ready to embrace the mantle of leadership, to become a beacon for others while still grappling with shadows of doubt himself? Would his journey of faith lead him to a place where sacrifice would be demanded, and if so, would he have the fortitude to lay it all down? Contemplating these heavy questions beneath the vibrant horizon, he glanced back at the serene waters, wondering what depths of faith awaited him in the call to come. As the sun began its ascent into the azure sky, Peter and the other disciples gathered in a circle around Jesus, absorbing the magnitude of the moment. The air crackled with anticipation, and the echoes of the surrounding nature seemed to bow in reverence to their gathering, as if even the hills and trees were listening. Your journey, Jesus began again, will not be undertaken lightly. It will be shaped by trials that will stretch your faith and challenge your spirit. Each of you will encounter moments of doubt that threaten to sway your hearts. But in those moments, remember, true strength is often born from vulnerability. Peter pondered aloud, Master, what if in our trials we falter? What if the weight of our commission becomes too heavy to bear? His voice trembled as he let his fears spill forth, the tension between hope and fear palpable. Jesus looked at him, eyes soft yet penetrating. In your moments of weakness, my strength will be made perfect. Do not seek to bear the weight upon your shoulders alone. Community is born from shared burdens. Rely upon each other, and upon the Spirit that will soon be delivered. It will guide you into all truth. The group fell silent, the enormity of their mission hovering over them like a dense fog. Each of them, James, John, and the others, seemed wrapped in their individual thoughts, each wrestling with what lay ahead. Peter felt the urge to speak, to share not just his fears but the flicker of hope that he had begun to cultivate. Lord, he said earnestly, after you are gone, how will we know you are still with us? How will we recognize your guidance amidst the tumult of the world? A smile spread across Jesus' face, one filled with affection but also profound wisdom. You will have the signs. You will witness the fruits of your labors, the healings, the miracles, the eyes open to the truth. But beyond that, you will know my presence in the way you love one another. Each act of kindness will echo my spirit, an embodiment of what it means to be my disciple. Peter nodded, though uncertainty still clung to him like strands of fog. He felt the tremors of doubt, an undercurrent that suggested he might never fully measure up to the expectation set before him. Yet, Master, he pushed gently, what if we are met with resistance and persecution? How can we stand unyielding when faced with such trials? A question for the ages, Jesus replied, his tone lightening. It begins with remembering that the servant is not greater than the master. If they revile me, they will certainly revile you. Yet, you must hold fast. Your task is to plant seeds of love and grace. Some will flourish, while others may wither. Trust in the process. Be patient. A small voice in Peter's spirit chimed in agreement, tugging at the three disquieted thoughts that had kept him awake: the fear of failure, the fear of scorn, and the fear of being left alone in the crunch of adversity. As he gathered courage, he glanced at the other disciples, gallant spirits eager to begin but perhaps just as troubled beneath their determined exteriors. Then, a wave of determination pooled within him, bolstered by the camaraderie they shared. We will go forth, Peter declared, together in faith. Jesus smiled, a glimmer of pride sparkling in his eyes. And remember, every step taken in love is a step in my name. Hold tightly to each other, and you will find the strength to bear whatever comes your way. As they stood in the sun's warming embrace, the enormity of their path lay ahead, uncharted yet promising. Peter felt an inner stir. Somehow, in the shared uncertainty and budding resolve, he sensed the heartbeat of their mission pulsing stronger than his fears. Yet, as the disciples turned toward the horizon, thoughts clung to Peter. Could he truly embody what was being asked of him? Would his heart remain steadfast amid the trials that loomed just beyond the horizon? Looking into the distance, he was left to reckon with one haunting question: would he rise to the occasion when the moment called him forth, or would he shrink back into the safe waters of his familiar life? Forever a humble fisherman with a heart weighed down by unfulfilled potential? As the sun climbed higher, casting shadows that danced playfully on the ground, Peter and the disciples took hesitant steps toward the path laid before them. Each footfall echoed with uncertainty, yet there was a collective spirit of tenacity knitting them closer together. They walked not as isolated souls but as a band of brothers, bound by faith and a shared purpose. As they journeyed into the day, the fields around them bloomed with a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds that celebrated creation. Birds flitted from branch to branch, their songs a reminder that life continued regardless of the weight they carried. Yet, amidst this beauty, Peter could not shake the haunting questions swirling in his mind. What did it truly mean to love as Jesus taught? How could they fulfill his wish to be the hands and feet of hope in a world rife with turmoil? Suddenly, their path led them to a small village, where the air was alive with murmurs of life. Crowds had begun to swell, drawn not only by the moral teachings of Jesus but also by tales of miraculous healings. Men, women, and children clustered around the edges, their faces alight with desperation and hope intertwined. Peter felt the tension in the atmosphere, the palpable yearning for answers to life's unyielding struggles. As Jesus approached the crowd, Peter stood back, transfixed. His heart raced as he watched his master engage with the people, reaching out with compassion and authority. Deep within him stirred a desire to emulate this love, to embody the light that drew so many to Jesus. Yet, he also felt the weight of his own inadequacies, a gnawing fear of not being enough to carry forth the profound message that now resided within him. Peter, a voice broke through his reverie. It was John, eyes bright with wonder. Look! He is healing them. These people are experiencing grace like never before. Tears mingled with laughter among those touched by Jesus' hands, and Peter could not help but be swept away in the emotion of the moment. He saw the faces of the healed transform, joy blooming where despair had once taken root. It was a powerful reminder of what lay within the heart of his calling, but then, as if drawn by an unseen force, a man came forth from the crowd. His clothes were tattered, his eyes wide with the frenzy of suffering. "Rabbi!" he cried, breaking the silence, "my son is tormented day and night. Please heal him. Cast out this darkness that has seized him." The commotion in the air thickened. Peter felt the tension again, a foreboding question lurking just at the edge of his thoughts. How could such suffering exist in a world touched by Jesus? The man clenched his hands, hope and despair colliding in a tempest of emotion. Jesus turned to the man, his eyes met with a depth of compassion that soothed the anguish in the man's soul. "Bring him to me," he said quietly, and Peter's heart raced again, not only with hope but with fear of the unknown that loomed within this wonder. As they approached, Peter felt drawn in by the intensity of the situation. He could sense the swirling confusion in the crowd, whispers darting like arrows. Would Jesus respond to this desperate plea? What would happen if the healing did not come forth? Could Peter himself be a vessel of such miracles? The crowd fell silent as they collectively held their breath, eyes locked on Jesus. The moment hung suspended, weighed by the gravity of both faith and doubt. The air charged with anticipation. What would the Master do? In the depths of his turmoil, Peter pondered the essence of their mission. He remembered the message of hope that Jesus had imparted, that love conquers fear, that in vulnerability lies true strength. Would this be their first test? Would they witness the miraculous power of love manifested through their faith? As these thoughts cascaded through his mind, a single question emerged, stark and unyielding: would they have the courage to face the darkness, and would they allow themselves to believe that, through Christ, they too held the power to heal? As the sun descended in a blaze of color over the horizon, Peter stood amidst the throngs of people, his heart racing in tandem with the pulse of the moment. The air buzzed with fervent anticipation, and above it all, the emotional weight of the earlier encounter lingered as a testimony to the divine authority woven through Jesus' presence. The essence of the man with the tormented child echoed in Peter's soul, anguish and relentless hope poured forth as the crowd surged around them, each longing heart seeking solace in the Master. "Rabbi, please." The desperate father pleaded, clutching his son tightly. The boy, frail and worn by the grip of darkness, laid against the man's shoulder, his condition emphasizing the weight of the miracle required. Peter felt a stirring deep within, a compelling urge to step forward and reclaim his place in this unfolding narrative, yet a tidal wave of self-doubt threatened to pull him under once more. "Master," he found his voice, finally breaking free from the shackles of uncertainty, "this suffering, can you not feel it?" He gestured towards the father and son, the anguish palpable in the very atmosphere. What if we are not strong enough?" Jesus turned his gentle gaze toward Peter, that familiar reservoir of wisdom shining deeply within those loving eyes. "You are the vessel of love and faith, Peter. It is not upon your strength that you must rely, but upon the Spirit that resides within you. You are not alone in this. In the crucible of those moments, as the crowd held their breath, Peter felt a flicker of realization ignite within him, an awakening that transcended doubt and reflected the truth of his purpose. Without realizing it, he had stepped fully into the role he had long feared taking, a role that demanded surrender, vulnerability, and fierce trust in the goodness of God. As Jesus commanded that the child be brought forth, Peter felt a surge of faith propel him, pushing aside the barriers of fear that had clouded his spirit. When the boy was set before Jesus, the atmosphere shifted, woven with threads of love and anticipation. The crowd leaned in, eyes widened, hearts collectively held in the balance. "Evil spirit, I command you to leave this child," Jesus declared with authority. The quiet tension burst as if the entire universe held its breath, and in that instant, Peter witnessed the dawning of possibility, a chasm between despair and hope bridged by divine love. As the heavenly voice reverberated, a moment held divine weight, and the very essence of creation seemed to align within Peter's consciousness. In that sacred moment, he felt not only a witness but a participant in the miracle unfolding before him. The boy convulsed slightly, and with a final cry, the dark spirit fled, leaving behind a fragile child transformed, weary yet shimmering with newfound life and light. Shouts erupted from the crowd, an eruption of joy, an outpouring of praise poured forth like rivers bursting through the dam. Tears streamed down faces lit with joy as hope erupted in vibrant colors, rippling through every heart. The father collapsed before Jesus, gratitude spilling forth in sobs, and Peter felt an overwhelming swell of faith stir within him, a faith rekindled by the display of God's love. "Truly," the father cried out, "you are the Messiah." In that declaration, Peter realized the profound truth echoing through and around him. The miracle before him was not just about this child, it was a testament, a mirror reflecting the divine call upon his life. This moment was an invitation to fully step into the identity of a disciple, to embrace the call of a fisherman, to become a fisher of men. A rush of emotion cascaded over Peter as he took in the joy enveloping the crowd, their faces turned upward in gratitude and reverence. This was the essence of faith, the communion of souls experiencing the power of love. It stirred a desire within him to step boldly into the chaos of life, to offer hope to the hopeless, a truth that came from embracing vulnerability. As the celebrations roared around him, he turned to Jesus, who stood at the center, calm amidst the exhilaration. "How do I carry this weight?" Peter asked, a trembling edge still lingering in his voice despite the intensity of love and light around them. Jesus smiled knowingly. "You do not carry it alone. Love in community, share in each other's burdens. In the moments of darkness, lean upon the strength of your brothers, for you are bound together with threads of faith." In that exchange, Peter felt the shackles of individualism release, replaced by a collective hope and strength. The invitation had now turned into an embrace of his own journey, one that would be riddled with trials, but that would also flourish through love, grace, and shared stories of redemption. He finally recognized that to love openly and wholeheartedly was the very heart of his calling. As they moved away from the crowded scene, Peter looked back at the vibrant faces shining with joy, a kaleidoscope of lives touched by the miracle, their spirits painted with the light of hope. He understood, then, that the trials he would face ahead would be the bedrock of testimony, woven into the fabric of shared humanity. "Lord," Peter whispered, a swell of conviction rising within, "I am ready to be the rock you called me to be." With Jesus' blessing resting upon him, Peter felt the culmination of faith merge into purpose, a powerful revelation embracing him as the weight on his heart began to lift. As he moved forward alongside his companions, Peter recognized that life would consistently demand risk, the leap from fear to love, from doubt to faith. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a serene glow across the land, Peter carried with him the indelible mark of transformation, a spirit set aflame with purpose, ready to sow seeds of love into a world hungry for healing. And as he walked further into the unknown, beneath the wide expanse of the heavens, he felt a joy rooted not in mere triumph but in a profound understanding, that every step taken in love, no matter how daunting, work to build the kingdom of God on earth, rippling eternally in the hearts of men. In the dance of light and shadow, he witnessed the beauty in surrender, the embrace of vulnerability shaping a legacy of faith that stretched far beyond the edges of his fear and into the very heart of the world. Through love, Peter would lead, teach, and grow, forever transformed by the light that dawned on him, a flicker igniting the world beyond the tumultuous sea of doubt.